Greetings, and welcome back to a Sappho Academic. So, got another debunk video. We're gonna do another two for one, right? So I heard this, uh, Candace Owens responding to reparations. So the reason why I'm doing two for one is because I'm gonna thoroughly dismantle what Candace Owens said, and then I'm gonna go to the reaction of the Officer Tatum here. If you haven't checked out my series, my debunk series, I talk a lot about the Black conservatives and their psychology and their anti-Blackness. So this isn't nothing new, but in terms of the reparations conversation, it's interesting because reparations is now starting to heat up in Minnesota and California specifically in terms of America. California and Minnesota specifically. And now the Republicans, or the Black conservatives, I should say, are now running around with their heads cut off because they've been telling Black people that reparations is never going to happen. And I'm not going to say it's about to happen, but the conversation has been pushed to such heights that we've never seen before in terms of a Black agenda. And honestly, what I see with the Black conservatives is that they are running on basically old software. The old software was to tell white conservatives, white Republicans, that all of Black people's problems are Black people's, and there's no systematic racism. So there's no need to give reparations, blame everything on Africa and everything. So it's very interesting. But we see here he has the title Candace Owens destroys woke activists on reparations in 60 seconds. This is probably one of the worst Candace Owens videos I've ever seen, but I'm going to play it just to show you exactly what I'm saying. We're going to dismantle it very quickly. Let's go.
So, like, why don't you think we deserve reparations? I mean, you did get a check for a racist act back when you were in high school. For
So he said Candace Owens received a check for a racist act when she was high school. And this is correct. This is correct. Candace Owens tells Fox News race wasn't an issue when she was younger, but she seems to be forgetting something. It's a very coy title. I honestly I think I should have just said it straight out. But yes, Candace Owens did sue when she was a student in high school for discrimination, racism, and she did receive money. So we come down here. So this is the segment where she said it on. So we'll play the segment.
If the old way worked, I mean, I think there's wisdom
Now this is a segment speaking on Obama. This was years ago, and you're gonna hear Candace Owens' thoughts on Obama.
to that.
Oh, he's
If
talking
Obama
about beyond
worked,
Obama.
oh yeah.
He's got to be talking about
If,
beyond Obama.
I respect
Obama,
that.
if the old way worked, who came before Trump?
Right. It was Obama, and Obama did a lot to tear this country apart. I do not remember when I was growing up having all of these race issues, okay? I really don't remember it. And then suddenly, towards the end of Obama, we started hearing.
So she said that's the only important part. I'm not taking out of context. She said when she was younger, she did not remember all these race issues, right? So Candace Owens received a payout of $37,000 from a lawsuit alleging her high school failed to act after white teens threatened her and repeatedly hurled racial slurs. This is Candace Owens. I'd even know this about Candace Owens. I'd even know Candace Owens was this disingenuous about racism and America because she acts like it doesn't exist. But this is crazy though. This is crazy. I'm probably gonna do a separate video on this because I didn't even know about this, right? So let's go back. Let's go back, right?
okay, so first off, reparations. I mean, you did get a check for a racist.
Getting the Kool-Aid.
So, Like, why don't you think we deserve reparations? I mean, you
Let me slow it down a little bit. Let me slow it down.
did get a check.
Paid.
So, like, why don't you think we deserve reparations? I mean, you did get a check for a racist act.
So we just established she got $37,000 for an incident in high school. White teens were hurling racial slurs at her. Let's
Back
go.
when you were in high school.
So first off, these are two different points. I do not think that we deserve reparations for slavery. I was never a slave in this country, and I think that the idea, if you think that you're going
So this point that she was never a slave, this is a very common talking point that the current people in America were never slaves. It doesn't matter because the restitution for the ancestors of enslavement was not paid. That's the whole point. Slave owners were paid, but the actual ones that were enslavement were not paid. So this idea that, oh, they're not slaves now does not matter. In Britain, I did a video about um it was either Douglas Murray or Hillary Fortridge on CNN, and I brought out the fact that Britain paid slave owners all the way up until I think it was 2015 or maybe a little bit later. So they have no issue paying slave owners, but the ones that are actually in enslavement, they don't want to do it. They have all these excuses, right? So let's continue.
to get more than $200 from the government, okay? And I think that the
Listen,
idea, if you
listen.
think that you're going to get more than $200 from the government, okay, this entire debate is just it's
So she received 3,700, right? She received 3,700 right here, $3,700. That's far greater than 200. But she's trying to make it seem like a reparations check is going to be 200. I don't think so.
a joke. I think that you're going to get more than $200 from the government, okay? This entire debate is just it's a joke, okay?
So very quickly in California, it was proposed, I think 250K in terms of reparations for each resident. It was suggested 5 million for reparations. And she wants to do her best to reduce it to a $200 check. Like this is how disingenuous they are. When the facts are actually when the facts are actually being presented, like look at it this way. Black conservatives were saying reparations was never going to exist. A lot of people were saying reparations were never going to exist, to be honest, to be completely honest. But now the conversation has been pushed forward. Figures for the first time ever in American history is being put down on paper. And now the Black conservatives, the Republicans, are running with their heads cut off because now what they've been saying is actually wrong. It's becoming more and more of a political agenda. And they want everybody to believe, especially the white Republicans, that is never going to be an issue. If more people demand reparations, then it's going to be more pushed into the political arena. This is what they're scared of. Let's go.
It's never going to happen. Do you think that we're the only group, I'm just going to ask this question, that has had something awful happen to them in this country? Should the Japanese get reparations for the
So this is another talking point about black people not being the only group, right? They love to say that black people are not the only ones that suffered, but the whole time they're trying to say that black people didn't suffer in America. We see how they cherry pick each talking point from one talking point to the next. Before, systematic racism didn't exist, but now systematic racism exists in this small context because everybody else went through some type of systematic oppression. You see, so they go from it doesn't exist to it does exist, but everybody goes through it. Let's go.
the internment, ask this question, that has had something awful happen to them in this country? Should the Japanese get reparations for the internment camps?
Yes,
Should
they
the Irish?
Thank you, brother. So he said very quickly, yes, they did. Yes, they did. So you said the Japanese, right? So let's go here for the Japanese, right? So this is from the Washington Post. The Washington Post. Okay, if you don't know the Washington Post, if you think this is some kind of conspiracy theorist site, I feel very sorry for you. I don't even have to explain who the Washington Post is. I have my issues in terms of anti-blackness with the Washington Post, but in terms of them giving information, accurate information, we can definitely say that is correct. So, this is from the Washington Post. This is a story about the Japanese internment camps in World War II. This is specifically what she was referencing. Okay, let's go. So it talks about, a couple or whatever enslaved at Mount Vernon, right? Now, as momentum builds for reparations, this family grapples with America should atone for the wrongs of the past. So this is the momentum for African American, foundational Black American descendants of enslaved Africans in US reparations movement. You know why? Because the Japanese reparations movement was successful. Japanese Americans received reparations, a presidential pardon, and a presidential apology, sorry, and a $20,000 check for 4 decades of their captivity. African Americans have not. See, I'll give credit where credit is due to the Washington Post, okay? But Japanese Americans did receive reparations. So where is she going with this argument? She's asking did Japanese receive reparations as if it's not true. Let's
Awful
go.
happened to them in this country. Should the Japanese get reparations for the internment camps?
Yes,
Should
they
Yes, they did. You see, he said it right there. Yes, they did. Who doesn't know this? I'm from Canada. I know that Japanese Americans got reparations. Okay, let's go.
the Irish,
Okay,
all the
there's
Irish, who's
18
Irish in this room? Raise your hand. Should they get, oh, that's a lot of Irish people. Should they get reparations for the Irish need not apply during the progressive era and all the terrible things that happened to them?
So what she's talking about, I'm not too like, to be honest, I'm not too familiar about the progressive area and what she's talking about, but in terms of indentured servitude, that's where they're subjugated to. That's not the same as being enslaved like a dark-skinned African. That's totally two completely different things. Indentured servitude. Indentured servitude, just to give you a quick breakdown, were allowed to be free in their lifetimes. Africans who were enslaved and their children had to continue on into enslavement. So she wants to, that's another thing that these Black conservatives want to do. They want to conflate different types of oppression together into one big bowl. Now she's saying everybody who's been oppressed, should everybody get reparations? We're talking about a specific situation unique to Black Africans living in America. All right. So what she's doing here is very, very disingenuous. We've barely gone through like seconds of it. I apologize for stopping, but we have to go line for line because each line she's saying is just more bullshit than the previous one. Let's go.
Should reparations for the Irish need not apply during the progressive era and all the terrible things that happened to them? What about the Jewish people? Should they get reparations for the Holocaust?
Should who? Did she really ask that? It's like she really reached this level of millions of followers on YouTube. She doesn't know that the Japanese got reparations in America. She doesn't know that Jewish people got reparations. What? What? Is this a real question?
well they
Things that happened to them. What about the Jewish people? Should they get reparations for the Holocaust?
well they did get reparations in Germany.
No, they
You see, this brother knows exactly what he's talking about. He had all the smoke. He had all the smoke ready. She's just going off. Their handler on the side. Look at the handler on the side here, feeding her information.
Didn't. That's
right?
about the Jewish people. Should they get reply during the progressive era and all the terrible things that happened to them?
Okay, so now see this guy right here. Watch him make a comment.
What about the Jewish?
He said the Jews, right? And she's just going off like she's been given facts.
People, should they get reparations for the Holocaust?
Well, they did give reparations in
They
Germany.
No, they
did.
didn't.
No, they
That
didn't.
is a myth, and that
Not
is
in
false.
America.
They did not get any. They didn't get any.
So listen again. She said it was a myth.
Well, they did give reparations in Germany.
No, they didn't.
No, they
that is
didn't.
a myth, and that
Not
is
in
false.
America.
They did not get any. They didn't get any reparations in America. So
Right. So she said reparations was a myth. Let's hear it one more time before she switches up and say, did Jews didn't get reparations in America? I'm going to address both those points, but let's go.
no, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
That is a myth, and that
Not
is
in
false.
America.
She said Jewish reparations is a myth. That is false. Listen it one more time.
For the Holocaust.
Well, they did give reparations in Germany.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
That is a myth, and that
Not
is
in
false.
America.
They did not get any. They didn't get any reparations in America. So
I wasn't talking- I
okay,
wasn't
but here's my
talking-
question: do you understand how?
Right. So they wanted to make this an American thing, right? But she said Jewish reparations is a myth. So I went into Google and I typed in exactly what she said. Jewish reparations is a myth. This isn't verbatim because she said it, she didn't say Jewish reparations is a myth, but she talked about Jewish reparations and it being a myth, right? You could go back and listen again. I'm not gonna play it another time, but I put Jewish reparations as a myth. So I'm not even gonna click on any link. We're just gonna go down, right? Holocaust restitution. Right, this is the first result. Second result, academic.oup. I'm pretty sure that this is a university level type of website. West German payments to the state of Israel. Remember that the state of Israel and Jewish victims of the Holocaust since 1950 are an unprecedented landmark in the history of reparations. Jewish people are an unprecedented landmark in the history of reparations. See, I really want to make short videos, but the lies are so big with the Black conservatives, I can't make short videos. I really want to keep my videos under 15 minutes, and I already have a feeling that we're already around 15 minutes, right? Because the lies are so big and so deep, I have to go. Let me just continue on. Let me just continue on because I was just one. This is the second result, right? So, myth, the Holocaust didn't happen. So, this is not so much what we're looking for. Reparations agreement between Israel and the reparations agreement between Israel and the Federal Republic of Germany was signed on September 10th, 1952 and entered into force in 1953. Okay, so what was she saying that reparations was a myth, right? Let's go. This is not so much what we're looking for. Germany announces Holocaust reparations and fund. The country will pay 1.2 billion, including emergency aid for Holocaust survivors in Ukraine. This is the New York Times. New York Times, okay? This was September 15, 2022, but this was an update, right? So this is not so much what we're looking for. Holocaust, see this last one here, Holocaust survivors receive German reparations to this day, February 18, 2021, okay? Holocaust survivors receive German reparations. mnchurches.org. So this is an organization, right? Because you know how I do, you know how I like to check each source, where the information is coming from, but the sources is so much about Jewish reparations. It's crazy that she will call it a myth. That was actually what she actually just said was anti-Semitic, because she just lied about the Jewish people. So what she said, that was anti-Semitic. That was very anti-Semitic, Candace Owens. So let's go. The first two is not so much what we're looking for. And the third one, not so much. So this is the case of reparation by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is about African, this is about reparations for foundational black people in America. So here we have another one, German reparations and the impact of post-war Jewish politics. Right. The early history of German Jewish reparations. I mean, what more do I have to say? What more do I have to say? So now this is a next point, right? Because it's almost as if each word, or not even sentence, is a lie. So they said that it didn't happen in America, but America is not responsible for what happened to the Jews. The Germans are responsible to what happened to the Jews across the continent. If Ghana wanted to get reparations, they're not going to go to America. They're going to go to Britain because they were the colonial invaders that came in. So each country has their own colonial invaders. In Congo, it's France. So for Congo, Congo will go to France for reparations. They're not going to go to the United States. They're not going to go to Britain. They're going to go to France. Ghana is going to go to Britain. Foundational Blacks in America are obviously going to go to America because they're the ones that conducted enslavement. I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple to understand, really. And this whole conflation with who has to pay what or do what is very simple. Whoever conducted enslavement or colonialism in that country is responsible for reparations. And it's not just African people that are making reparations claims. It's also people in other parts of the country as well too, right? But I shouldn't say other parts of the country, but other parts of the world. So hopefully I thoroughly went through all of that. She said Jewish reparations is a myth. It's not a myth. So then they said, okay, it's Americans didn't pay. And actually, let's go on that point that Americans didn't pay reparations because they are correct. America did not pay reparations because they're not responsible for the Holocaust. Germany is, right? But the amount of money that US gives to Israel is insane. From 1949 to present, I would love to jump in and get the date. 10 billion in loans for Israel over 5 years. Okay. US foreign aid to Israel at present. It doesn't say the exact number. I would love to jump in and get the exact number, but US foreign aid to Israel is not a new thing. It's been going on for a very long time. So why would a country that already received reparations from Germany for the Holocaust continue to get money from the US, mainly for military? Many people might have many different answers, but I just want to show that the US continually and still continues to give money to Israel. How much money does Israel get from the US? In 2020, the US gave 3.8 billion. 3.8 billion in aid to Israel. Let's go down. This is how you do research. This is how you verify facts. This is what you call facts over feelings. What Candace Owens is doing is disingenuous. It's fake. It's fugazi. It's fugazi what she's doing, right? Untold story of US aid to Israel. There's so many different sources, so many different sources we could go through, right? So we come back. I haven't even gotten to Officer Tatum. So we come back, right?
slippery of a slope any reparations in America. So should
I
so
wasn't talking- I
okay,
wasn't
but here's my
talking about
question:
the
do you
art.
understand how slippery of a slope is when you start saying reparations? At the beginning of humanity, the slave trade used to be legal. It used to be legal. And do you want to know who got reparations? This is actually fascinating. I learned this from Larry Elder yesterday. In the UK, they decided to give reparations because of the slave trade when they abolished it. You know who they gave reparations to? The slave owners.
So why would like she's so it's very I can't even put it into words because she thinks that fact absolves them from giving reparations to the ones that are actually enslaved. Like anybody with a brain understands that the ones who are doing the enslaving didn't deserve reparations. The one who enslaved deserves the reparations because that's the whole point of reparations is to make a broken people whole. If you don't agree with reparations, that means you're anti-Semitic and you don't agree that the Jewish people deserved reparations. This whole history of reparations has culminated into this point for foundational black people in America.
Because black people were when they abolished it. You know who they gave reparations to? The slave owners.
I mentioned that in my video with I think it was I'm pretty sure it's Hillary Fordridge. And how can the owners get reparations where they when they weren't broken at all? They benefited from enslavement. How can they receive reparations? That's because there's a system there from very early on in history. Not I won't say very early on in history, but the colonial period. I mean, let me just keep playing.
Because black people were their property legally. It was legal, right? So when they got rid of it, they gave them reparations. The point is that
And she's trying to make that an argument for why enslaved black people in America don't deserve reparations. I don't know how, like, she really has a battery in her back, to be honest. And this guy here definitely has to be the handler because he was feeding her, seems like talking points. We've seen with the Jewish. It's incredible. It's incredible that I thought Candace Owens was somewhat smart, but now I've seen that she's just completely just a grift. She's just willing to say any single thing to get views, to get the viewership from white Republicans.
no matter where you go in history, someone was oppressed. You cannot look to correct history by thinking that you're going to get a small check. You go in
So
history,
let me
someone, when
let
they
me
got rid
let
of
me
it, they
answer this.
gave them reparations. The point is that no matter where you go in history, someone was oppressed. You cannot look to correct history by thinking that you're going to get a small check because every single person in this room would get a check.
The black conservatives like to say that black people should get reparations from the African chiefs, right? But many of those kingdoms that involve themselves in the slave trade, like the Dahomey, they don't even exist anymore. They don't even exist. So these tribes that the black conservatives are telling foundational black Americans to get reparations from, they don't even exist. They were destroyed before modern day governments were even created. So this idea that black people have to go to African people for reparations doesn't even make sense. But you know who's still here? US is still here, France is still here, all of Europe is still here. The ones that in recent time conducted in this practice, they're still here. They profited from it. So obviously, the claim would have to be made against them. It's very simple. It's not a very confusing situation, but this is what black conservatives like to do. They like to conflate. They like to make everything just simple and easy to understand.
You are not a victim in America. Black people have the most rights out of anywhere in the world right here in America. And the white man ain't worrying about you.
So this idea that the white man is not worried about black people when it's historically recorded how white people subjugate black people in America all over the world, really, right? I can keep playing more with Officer Tatum, but it just goes to show that he thought that this was some type of intellectual win when it's clearly disingenuous. I mean, I completely went through it, Candace Owens' history, to continue to act like Candace Owens did not sue for racism, and then she wants to act like racism doesn't exist. That makes her a complete fraud that I didn't even know about. But that's all I really wanted to say. I mean, the information speaks for itself, right? So this has been completely debunked, 100%. I mean, in 60 seconds, it really look how much time it really took to just go through each line, right? The Japanese, the Jewish people. I mean, it's crazy. Even with reparations with the Japanese as well too. I forgot to point out. This is another article. Japanese Americans join fight for reparations. Japanese Americans are one of the first major groups to receive redress from the U.S. government. Now they're supporting the Black reparations movement. And when was this? I'm just gonna put the date, January 13, 2022. I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm not saying that all Asians are fighting for reparations, but it just goes to show how out of touch or disingenuous Candace Owens really is. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think and peace out to the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. That's it.